Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about a friggin' book. The book in question, per the title, is A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kozlov. This is book 1 of the 9 Realms series. It's a 4-book series, and the first one was published in January. The second one was published in February, and then the third in March, and the fourth is going to be in April. So it's a fun concept because you can just binge the series, and I'm a little bit behind, obviously, because I've only read this first one, but I will definitely be picking up the next book. The thing is, I can't get the physical copy now because the libraries are closed. This is the library copy. And my library doesn't have the ebook version of this series, at least currently they don't. So I already purchased the second book, which is, what's it called? The Queen of Raiders. So this is technically an adult fantasy series. It's a large world with a bunch of kingdoms and queendoms, and then even some free states where there's just a different government set up. It's not a monarchy. There is at least one young character that we follow pretty heavily though. So it's adult, but you're following a cast of characters, and there is one that, like I said, is a child and is growing up. By the end of the book, she is 18 or 20. She's a young adult at that point. But yeah, there are other characters you're also seeing their points of view, and they are all adults. Gigi, the little tiny baby kitten, is on the couch right behind the camera, and she's just being so cute right now, and it's very distracting. So in the prologue of this first book, we learned that the queen has been gone for 12 years. There is no queen on the throne in this one particular land, which is a queendom. Then in chapter 1, we jump back to when the queen is at the palace and her daughter is very young. Each of the lands in this world at some point had magic. Some of them still do have magic, but others no longer do. So we have the greater powers and the lesser powers. And the land that we follow closely is called Wearendale. And that's where we initially start off with Queen Cressa and her daughter, the heir to the throne, Cerulia, I think is how you pronounce it. Cerulia? I think Cerulia. They do have magic, and they call it a talent, and the queens have a talent, and it can manifest in different ways. So yeah, we follow Cressa, the queen, Cerulia, her daughter, and she's young and then growing up, and she's the one that's older. We also follow a guy named Matwick, who is the regent when the queen is gone. There is a character named Thalen that we follow who's in one of the free states, and he's going to basically get his education, and that's a whole other thing. And then a guy named Sumroth, who is a soldier of this kind of ominous kingdom that is doing a bunch of bad stuff. They're not great. They're invading places and whatever, and this guy's like, I can't remember if he's a captain or something. He's a leader at any rate in this army. There's a couple other characters that we see little glimpses of, but those are the main ones that we're seeing. There's lots of political maneuvering, strategy, and then warfare also happening in various points of this book. I have an issue sometimes with battle scenes, fight scenes, because sometimes I just feel like authors give us way too much detail that's kind of confusing. The whole, like, he jumped up to the left 2.5 feet and swung his leg around at a 45-degree angle and kicked her in the left quadrant of her temple, or like whatever, where I'm like, okay, what? I don't need to know this much damn detail. I just can't picture it, I think, is my issue, and some people probably can, and so it probably is like super exciting. For me, I can't really picture when you give me that much, like, and it's like a lot happening, I'm like, I can't follow it. But I also don't want to just completely skip over like a big battle necessarily, you know what I mean? Or a fight scene. Sometimes they're badass, but it's just like, for me personally, it has to be written in a pretty specific way. And I thought the battle scenes in this were really good. One in particular towards the end, it's more of a battle, not just like a fight. It's a battle with some armies. And it kind of felt like the Battle of the Bastards scene episode in Game of Thrones, where you're like in it and you're following this character and you see the just pure chaos of war. I really enjoyed that. With this book, I think as the series goes on, I'll probably feel a little differently, but the characters themselves, I liked them, and I thought they were, it's like I thought they were well written, but at the same time, sometimes I was like, they're kind of superficial though. Like, we're not getting really into their head. I don't want to get into any spoilery things, but yeah, there's just certain characters where like, I don't know their motivations. And when we're following Cerulia, when she's a child, she has a friend who is like her best friend, and things happen where she doesn't feel comfortable talking to certain people, and she basically uses this friend as her like mouthpiece. And she's a pretty integral part of Cerulia's life, this friend. And I don't know the first damn thing about her. I don't know what her personality is like. I don't know anything she likes or dislikes. You know what I mean? She was super superficial and just kind of there as a prop for Cerulia, and I wish that hadn't been the case. Cressa, I will say, I did feel, and she was probably the one that we got the most like in-depth look into. Her head, her motivations, her wants, her desires, her dreams. She's probably the one that we spent the most time with, like in a more complex way. That being said, I'm super intrigued with all of the kind of plot maneuverings and the strategy and where this is all going to go. It's definitely an epic. I mean, this first book is covering the course of 12 years. There's a lot happening, and I'm like really intrigued to see what happens in the rest of the series. Thalen actually is probably my favorite character. Cressa would be right up there, but Thalen, I liked his plot. Like I said, he was going off to like a university basically to become an educated man. We got to know some of his like professors and a couple of his peers, but again, they were kind of surface level, but Thalen wasn't. And his storyline was really interesting to me. I don't know, I just really liked it. We got to know his family quite a bit, and I liked his family, their dynamics and everything. And where it leaves off with him, he's definitely going to play a bigger part moving forward, and I'm just really excited to see what happens there. On my 1 to 10, I gave this a 6.83, which translates to 3.5 Pushinicorns. This is one where I wasn't madly in love with this first book, but my curiosity is definitely piqued, and I anticipate that I'm gonna like the other books more and more. That's what I hope happens anyways. Now for some spoilery things. So if you plan on reading this, or you think you might read this at some point, dip out now. I was really liking Cressa, and I don't know how to pronounce his name necessarily, Ambryce, her husband. I really liked him as a character. He was just so much fun, and I liked their relationship. They were clearly in love with each other and supportive and just great, grand, wonderful. And then the motherfucker had to die. His death was just like, what? And then immediately after her death, I don't know how I feel about her death. Like, that was kind of a point in the book where I was like, because partially it felt like a cop-out. It seemed out of character because it felt weak. You know, she gets injured, I get that she was burnt and she felt like she was dying, but she didn't know for sure if she would or would not die. I mean, I guess maybe her intuition just told her. She had been so obsessed with getting back to her daughter and getting back the throne, but definitely getting back to her daughter. She was at the point where she was wanting to go just see her because it was killing her that it had been so long since she had even seen her, and she didn't know how she was doing. And Ambryce had to tell her, like, no, we can't, that will put her at risk. And then she just gives up and says, kill me, bro? Like, what? It just felt out of character from what we had seen of her. But at the same time, having a character who is just tired, you know, like it's been years and years and years of fighting, of just constant fighting and battle, trying to gain some ground, and then you see the man you love murdered in front of your eyes. I mean, I don't hate having a character who's just like, fuck this, I'm done. I'm tired of this shit. You know what I mean? I don't hate that concept because it's realistic. You know, in books, it's fun and exciting to have these characters that are just like constantly badasses and like they always come back and blah, blah, blah. I love it, right? But it is nice, I guess, to have some representation of someone who's just like, man, I've been beaten the fuck down and I can't anymore. I just can't. And sometimes, you know, that happens in real life. And it wasn't a suicide or anything like that. But she just basically told her brother, like, kill me. Put me out of my misery right now. And yeah, I'm very conflicted on how I feel about that. And Sumroth, the guy who was in it's the Oromando army, the like big bad kind of, you know, army, and they're invading everything. And they're basically barbarians, like they're savage as fuck. And we see somewhat that he is kind of just doing what he's supposed to do. He doesn't seem to really have his heart in it, but he's also like commanding them to do these atrocious things. He's ruthless as fuck. But then we hear him a couple times mention like his wife or his love and letters from her, and it sounds like he's just trying to get back to her, but like that's all we get. And I just wanted a little bit more because he could have been so much more interesting. And I mean, I'm intrigued. My curiosity is piqued, and maybe that's the point, because again, it's an epic, it's 4 books, and I don't know if the other books are going to cover this much time or not. So partially makes sense, but also I was like left wanting a little bit in that regard. And like he can't see people's faces, got no explanation for that, just a mention that like he can't tell people's faces apart. And I was like, what? Why? Little girl, what are you doing?
Say hello. Yeah, hi. You get so big. You getting so big?
Okay. Go potty. I feel like you got a potty. So there we have it. Super quick, but I wanted to do a review because it's a newer release, and I think it's a pretty solid book, and like I said, my curiosity is very piqued for the rest of the series. That's always a good sign for me because you guys know I'll DNF a series or a book real quick if I have no curiosity about the characters or the plot. And yeah, I think a lot of people will enjoy this. I think some people will probably enjoy it less than me and some will enjoy it more than me, but I think it's a pretty solid book, and we'll see how the rest of the series goes. As always, thank you so much for your time. Hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.